Here we can see the different fronts going on. So you can see the northern attacks that are going on here, the attacks from this side. Poland will even take an opportunity to attack. These lands are lost in the south as groups move north. Other groups will move in from this side. And this is also when the capital is moved from Petrograd, which they're worried about losing, is moved to Moscow in the center. But again, you can see the central position of the Reds, which really helps them fight the war. In addition, here is a more detailed view. You can see lands and territories they've lost, very fluid lines that are moving, but they still maintain that centralized area. We go forward. Here's a quote from Trotsky talking about some of the discipline. Trotsky's order to Red Army troops, issued 24th November 1918. Krasnov and foreign capitalists who support him have thrown onto the vortice from hundreds of agents who have penetrated Red Army units and are inciting men to desert. I declare that from now on an end must be put to this by merciless means. And this is Trotsky. Lenin supports him. 1. Every scoundrel who incites anyone to retreat or to desert or not carry out a military order will be shot. 2. Every soldier of the Red Army who voluntarily deserts his military post will be shot. Death to self-seekers and traitors. Death to deserters and the agents of Krasnov. Long live the honest soldiers of the Workers' Red Army. So this is the kind of discipline that's being enforced. Next, what we can see here is just a very simplified view, but you can see how there's four sets of forces coming at the Bolsheviks from all directions, and how they're trying to resist. And what will happen is they'll be able to beat off, move their forces back and forth, and individually eliminate each of these threats. Now, here's their problem. They won the war, but Russia is crippled. Remember, we saw those millions who died at the start. War communism also alienated a lot of people in terms of the way it worked. And there is about to be a third Russian Revolution. And the Bolsheviks are about to be taken out. But we're dealing with Lenin here, and we're going to see he has a solution. Now, how does he know? How does Lenin know things are bad? In 1921, in Tambov and Kronstadt, there are problems. The Kronstadt Rebellion. Sailors at Kronstadt rebel against the Bolsheviks. This is a huge problem because it was the sailors who had been so supportive of the Bolsheviks movement. Now, a lot of them are dead from the Civil War, but still, these sailors were a bastion of support for the Bolsheviks. These sailors are unhappy with Lenin's authoritarian rule and the excesses of the Bolsheviks, the Red Terror in particular. So their island fortress is stormed and the rebels eliminated. And one reason they stormed them quickly was the fact that the ice was soon going to disappear and the Red Army wouldn't be able to get the sailors. The other side of things, so not just military unhappy with the Bolshevik rule, but now we see that the Tambov Peasant Rising from 1920 to 1922. So it began while the Civil War was still on and exists a little bit past the Civil War. And here you can see the peasants are very unhappy with war communism and the grain requisitions, actually seizures by armed soldiers. And the large rebel forces, tens of thousands of people, are eventually quelled by both the Red Army and the Cheka, and it's merciless. On the other side, these Bolsheviks are about to lose the peace, so on the other side, rather than just crushing people mercilessly, they're going to offer a bit of a carrot and not just a stick. And that's where they're going to switch from war communism to the NEP. Now, war communism, we're going to have forced requisition of grains, sometimes even the seed grains, so then the peasants will die the next year because they won't have anything to grow. They're going to be forced to share under gunpoint with machine guns by the Cheka and the Red Army units. Under war communism, all production in factories is going to be centralized and for the war, because this is a life and death survival for the communists they see. And there's going to be even internal passports, and workers could be shot if they weren't working properly. And what's also going to happen under war communism is the peasants are just going to stop producing. So it is useful because they find the food and materials they need for the war. As I highlighted before, the peasants stop producing as much food, and food production is going to be at 20% of pre-war levels. So the production in 1913 is, if it were 100, we are producing at 20%. By 1921. The country is in crisis. And there is a huge amount of anger on the part of the workers. And if you remember in 1917, when the workers were angry, they revolted against their governments. Finally, all private trade and manufacture are forbidden. It's good communism, but people are not pleased. And finally, everything is made worse because of the poor weather and the policies, millions more are going to die due to famine. Now, under NEP, which Lenin has to work hard to persuade the Bolsheviks this is a good idea, the peasants can sell extra grain, and so they increase their output. Small businesses, if I remember correctly, but under 20 can open. Money is again used. So Bolsheviks had been very happy before because money had lost all value during the war. And we do have the scissors crisis, where we find that as food production increases, the amount of goods, food production is going to increase, and that's going to mean that food prices drop, and so there's going to be more and more food production, less and less prices being paid for the food, and the prices of the goods they can buy are going to increase as people have more food, more money from the food, and they're going to have a crisis in that. But they passed the scissors crisis. Now, Lenin's justification in NEP, there's a doc base that we've looked at in the past, but basically he says, we need to do this. We were a little too enthusiastic. We have to switch or we're going to be kicked out of government. And you've seen the reasons to change to NEP. The people are unhappy. The economy's not running. There's no production. No one's producing any food. And they have to win the people back by giving them a bit of capitalism.